thank you for coming. My name is Sam Horn. This was planned for my Eagle project, and the reasons I chose to plan this class, I saw a rising need for cybersecurity training or education. I've seen firsthand the consequences that can happen when people get scammed, and my grandma got scammed. I'll introduce our two instructors. We have Paul Whiteley and Detective Cal McLean. Paul Whiteley, you're up first.
Yep. You ready for it? Okay. So I will start by saying, one, my voice carries, and two, I've been accused of sometimes I get excited, so I get really fast in what I say, and I also project a lot more as I go. So those of you on the front row, if I start seeing your hair flowing back, then I know to be careful. So again, so I'm Paul Whiteley, and so the very first question you got to ask is, why in the heck should I listen to this guy? So I have a Bachelor of Science degree in computer engineering. I've worked for about 20 years in the IT industry, and the last 14 years or so I've worked in cybersecurity, internal IT risk audit, and I currently lead a risk assessment team for a Fortune 500 company here in town, in which my team looks at stuff, right? So somebody wants to do something, we look at it to make sure that it's safe, and what they're trying to do is safe. I get pulled into quite often for various different organizations that I do outside of work, where they've got questions on, hey, they want to use this tool, is it safe to do? And so sometimes I have to go and do those evaluations as well. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, why I've been doing this and what I focus on. So hopefully I've got some knowledge that I can share with you guys today. So when you talk about cybersecurity, there's a lot of words, and it kind of beats you over the head. There's a lot of things to know. There's a lot of information, and I'm hopefully going to give you guys a quick, maybe 6-hour rundown of these topics. So I just threw some up here. What you really need to know is over here. And so this is kind of what we're going to go through in this presentation. So first thing you need to realize is that, yes, you are a target. So as Sam said, his grandmother got targeted and fell victim to this. And so, it is a reality that we are all targets. Then hopefully I'm going to help you to try to learn how to be suspicious. Like, you always want to trust people, but you want to verify. And so how do you be suspicious? What are those things to help you, those triggers in your mind that you can think, wait, what am I doing here? Should I be doing this? And then how do you protect your identity and your passwords? And then how do you secure your devices? And then finally, how do you educate yourself above and beyond just this presentation here? So, by raise of hand, who has been reached out, compromised, had something that you suspect you got hacked or targeted by something? So I got my hand up. And I was telling the officer back here, as recent as like 4 hours ago, I had a phone call on my phone, somebody trying to scam me. I grabbed a couple of just quick statistics. So 60% of Americans are exposed to fraud schemes, and that was a number from 2018. 23 have been victims of cybercrime. 23% of all Americans have been victims of cybercrime. And then the thing is, just last year alone, 12 breaches resulted in over 100 million accounts that have been compromised and have been out there. So obviously there is a concern around here of, yep, I can't have my blinders on anymore. I am a victim. So how many, or raise the hands of anybody that has had your machine, your computer, compromised by either malware or ransomware? A couple of you. I have my not by my doing, but I've got some tips on there on how you can secure your devices so that you're not at risk that I was. I'm a security professional. I was like, oh great, I can do what I need to do. My stuff is all secure and locked down. And then comes my in-laws, and they needed to use it on a weekend, and all went down from there. So there's some tips in here on how to help you protect yourself from those types of situations. So being suspicious. So I've put up a couple of things here, and I know we're going to hear a little bit more about these because some of these are different types of scams. So a couple of things to think about when you are reached out to, and obviously the top one is anything with a high sense of urgency. They need something from you right now. So the phone call I got like 3 hours ago literally was, hey, your Social Security is going to be revoked unless you act now. Okay, first of all, I know the Social Security Commission's not going to be calling my cell phone telling me this. But again, they have that high sense of urgency. They want to get you to react now because they want you to be concerned and worried. If they're demanding payment or payment for something like, oh, you have this service, but they want payment for you to do something extra. Most customer services aren't going to do that. If nothing else, they'll charge your account before they require you to send payment, gift cards. Why in the world would Amazon need you to send them a gift card? Let's be honest. Then there's a couple of other ones on here that I really will ask you or hit on, but like when they ask you for your password, there is not a company out there that will ask you for your password. Their customer service will not allow it. It's honestly, I think it's one of the regulatory things in, it's not a NIST, but anyways, trust me, they're not going to ask you for your password. They may reset your password and then send you a link to reset it, but they are not going to ask you over the phone for your password. Just be aware. But the last one on here, and this is one that I think is interesting, is you receive an odd email from a friend or coworker. My mother-in-law was asking, she was on the phone with my wife, I guess this was 2 weeks ago, and she's like, oh, hey, I got this really odd email from Susie. Susie is my younger sister. They have met maybe 3 times. Why in the world would the two be exchanging emails? Why would my sister who lives in DC be emailing my mother-in-law? It just didn't make sense. But my mother-in-law was like, oh, I'm got to go click on this link and do this. And my wife was like, no, stop. My sister had gotten compromised. What they had done is somewhere where she had her email address and her address book was there. They grabbed her email address. They said, here's some other people that are in their email address. Let's send an email that makes it look like her. Now they've increased the chance that somebody's going to click on that link. They don't actually compromise her system. They compromised where her information was. And that's how they are using to try to get somebody else to click on these things. I'll touch on that a little bit more, but that's called phishing. And it's PHISH, not FISH.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I've always heard, or what I've read, is don't click on the attachment, but you're saying don't even click on the email.
Don't click on the email. So I'll tell you a couple of sneaky things. I haven't seen this in a while, but sometimes they will take an email. They'll draft out the email, right? There'll be a link here.
Right.
And then they will take a snapshot of that. And they'll embed that picture in the email. And in that email, that picture is now a link. So anywhere you click in that email is a link. And so if you move your cursor just anywhere in the email and it pops up the thing that looks like when you hover over a link, be cautious because, like I said, anything in that email could be a link. So, and this is one of the key things that you need to, again, be suspicious. Another situation that I had was my father was in town. He was helping my sister move to DC, my younger sister that got compromised. And we're sitting there and he got a phone call from his bank saying, we have an issue with your account, blah, blah, blah. We need this information. We need your account number and your password and all this stuff. And I was like, stop, hang up. I told him, get out his card, pulled out his credit card, look at the number on the back, call that number. He called the number. Sure enough, there was nothing going on. Always verify where the source is coming from. That is a key piece. So if you get an email or whatnot and that says, here's a link, even if you do business with that company, and I'll touch on how they get that information a little bit later, but even if you do business with that company, don't click on the link in there. If it's an email that you are not expecting. So unless you've signed up for some sort of newsletter or you've put in a request and you're expecting some sort of communication, don't click on those links. Go to their website. So Amazon sends you an email saying, hey, your account's been revoked and we're going to charge you all this money. Don't click on those links. Go to Amazon's website, type in the URL, type in what's there. Go directly to their site, call their customer service. My wife hates getting on the phone, but I force her all the time to get on the phone and talk to people because otherwise you're not going to know who you're actually talking to. They get really tricky on how they mask these URLs in these links. So now that I've taught you how to be suspicious and kind of scared you a little bit, let's figure out, how do you protect your identity? So, strong passwords. So I'm gonna ask some questions, and if you don't feel comfortable answering, please don't. But who in here hasn't changed their password for their email account in the last 60 days?
Oh. 2 years.
Yep. I'll ask you another question. How many people in here use the same password on most of their solutions, their websites?
He will not listen to his wife.
How many people have the same password that is some sort of word, it's initials, it's a date that means something to you, it's your anniversary, whatever? Don't answer that one, but just think about that one. Getting a little bit farther in down this and whatnot. But think about that, because in the world that we live in today, with all of this information out on social media, it is really easy to start getting your initials, your wife's initials, your children's initials, their date of birth, your anniversary date. All of that information is now out there in public in a lot of ways that people can target you and do this. Now the question goes back to, how do I know I'm a target, right? Well, this is where you use the varied passwords. So having multiple accounts. So if my account gets compromised on, say, Target's website, right? And I have the same exact email or user ID and password that is used there, and they are able to use that email to go and target me, and they get into my account, they can now say, oh, I'm going to use this account password on every system I can find. And that's how they start getting into all your other solutions. So that's why you need to have varied passwords across multiple things. Strong passwords are any passwords that are anywhere from 12 to 15 characters long. Now, it used to be that the NIST, which is the National Institute of, I forget what it is. I reference it all the time, it's just NIST. They used to say that you needed to have your password and change it every 90 days. They've actually redacted that and changed it in the latest regulation that says if you use strong passwords, it's actually better for you not to change your passwords as often. You still need to change them, but not to change them as often, as long as you're using good techniques. And again, that 15 characters, 12 to 15 characters, and then also varied. So one of the tips that I always give people is, so if you've got your passwords and you know that, okay, I'm not going to be able to remember this. If you have certain phrases that mean something to you and you think you can remember those, decide today to say, okay, I'm going to change all S's to dollar signs. That's a little common, but if you say, okay, I'm going to change this letter to this number anywhere I write it, then when you say, oh, I'm going to go type in my password, you don't have, they don't have that knowledge that you could say, okay, my password is going to be aardvark, but I know that all R's are really 7s. Right? And no matter where I put it, and I know that aardvark means, I'm the zoo, right? I know that my password of the zoo is aardvark. All I have to remember is aardvark and the zoo. I don't have to remember which character I put because you've already decided in your mind that anywhere you do your password, you're going to replace this character for this character. Strong passwords. Mm-hmm.
So on my computer, it will suggest a password and then store it. Is that a good idea or is that not a
So
good idea?
that's only as good as your security of your system.
Okay.
Because again, if your system gets compromised, they can get that password. They can get to your password vault. Those password vaults are usually encrypted, which is a good thing. But as long as they can compromise that, so these password managers are great because they keep all of this information in one location, but it's only as good as how you get into that information. And so what I would probably say is if you're trying to figure this out, keep some separation. And this is where I always say protect your email account. And so I'm going to paint a little picture for you. So you shop at, well, so if I go, and I can't go back with this, I'd have to go click over there, but when I said that there was 12 breaches that were over 100 million accounts that were compromised, most of those systems today are using your email address as your account name. Well, so that data breach, they may not ever get your credit card or your social security number, but they may get your email address. And they now know that you shop at Target, right? Target got hacked, they have your email address. They're gonna start sending you emails pretending to be Target to your email address. They're gonna try to compromise your email account. If they compromise your email account, now think about it. They can go into Gmail, they compromise your email account, they can get in. It's easier for them not to lock you out or to do anything else. They're gonna look through and see, okay, what newsletters are you getting? Okay, well, you're getting Zulily and you're getting newsletters from LuLaRoe. You can tell my wife shops a lot. You're getting newsletters from the zoo and the library and whatnot. And so what they're gonna start doing is they're gonna start using that information to go into those websites and say, wait, they bank at Bank of America. I can see Bank of America in this list. I'm gonna go to Bank of America's website and say, reset my password. They reset the password, what does it do? It sends an email to your email address. Well, if they've already got access to your email address, they're in your bank. That's why you need to make sure that you are protecting your email password. I have always had my email password that where my stuff is sent, it's a strong password and it's kept separate from anywhere else. It is never used anywhere else and it rotates. That is the one password that you probably need to make sure that you're securing the most because all of your communications are tied back to that account. I put up here avoid unsecure and public Wi-Fi. So you go to the zoo, the library, you're checking into your hotel and they've got free Wi-Fi. If you do a search and you're like, oh, this is Marriott free Wi-Fi, right? You may connect up there and you may get to the internet, but that may be somebody 3 doors down that set up a hotspot that they're funneling all your information out to the internet, but they're collecting it all as you go. So you need to make sure that you verify. So when I check into a hotel, I go over to that book that nobody ever reads on the table. I flip through to where it says internet, see what the internet is supposed to be. If it's not listed there, I go down to the front desk and I ask. Do not connect to secure, unsecure networks that you're just not aware of. And then this is another one that I always kind of give an advice to is the random but memorable security questions. So when you're signing up for an account, you often get these, what is your dog's, your first pet? What is your dad's middle name? What is this? Most of that information, again, is easily accessible on the internet. It's easy to find these things in this day and age. So what I do is I go ahead and say, okay, you get familiar with those questions quite often. And so what I'll do is I'll say, okay, if they ask me what my first dog's name is, it's gonna be Frank. I've never had a dog that's named Frank, but I know that anytime I see that question, I'm gonna type in Frank, and it has nothing that they can do. Or it can be even a random list of numbers, right? That you just know that that you're familiar with. It could be the Rams starting linebacker, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but as long as you know that for this question, this is the answer I'm going to give, then it's harder for somebody to try to impersonate you in that manner by having some information about you. So just randomize those things and have them set that you're going to use. So protecting your identity and passwords are key. So securing your device. So the top one on here is backup. So I asked the question a little while ago about ransomware. Is anybody familiar with what ransomware really is? Okay, so for those of you that don't know, ransomware is where you get in some sort of virus that goes on your machine. And quite often it'll be, the way these things usually work is they try to trick you into doing it. So they'll say, oh, your machine is compromised. You get a pop-up and it says, to resolve this, click this button. And what that actually is doing is it's not really infecting your machine, it's taking that your approval and saying, oh, they've approved me to go in and encrypt all of my files. So they go out to all of your documents, all of your pictures, all of your records, and they start encrypting them. And then then you get a notice saying, hey, if you want all your information back, you got to pay us $500, $1,000, $8,000, whatever it is. And most of those ransomware solutions are really, really hard. There's ways to get your data back. Most of the time, it's not going to be worth it. You're going to end up paying more than the value that the money is to get that back. And that's where you need to really be sure is that if you have backups and if you back up something that's not connected to your system, then there's no way for that ransomware to infect that and to encrypt those files. And so when you do it, okay, yeah, you blow away the machine, you rebuild it, plug in the device, all your files are back. Backing up is key to making sure that you're not going to be a victim of ransomware. Patch everything, and I put the everything on there because how many of you have smart devices in your home? Video cameras, baby monitors, refrigerators these days. I've even seen smart toasters. So your TV. I mean, if I'm looking at my household right now, I've got 3 TVs that all have internet connections. I've got an Apple TV. There's the Wii. There's the multiple tablets. Patching everything is key, and those devices that you aren't familiar with are really important to patch as well, because most of those things aren't going to patch themselves. It's what's called firmware, and so if you're not going out to your internet router that you probably paid Spectrum or whoever else to come in and they installed all your stuff and they gave you a router and that's what you're connecting to. If you aren't going into that router and updating the firmware, then it's vulnerable because these things have holes in them. They get found, they get published out there, and then they get compromised. And that's where they could start getting your information. And so patching everything that is there. If you can't patch everything, then that last one there is important. Most modern routers today, and the router is really the backbone of your home network, will allow you to set up either a guest zone and then your internal network. I only put into my internal network the systems that I'm concerned with that I know are secure. My televisions aren't connected to it. My Apple TV is not connected to it. Any of those devices that I don't think are going to be secured frequently and updated frequently go on this whole separate network, and they're segmented. They have no way of connecting to my home PC, my phone when it's on the network, any of those devices. So segmenting your network, getting a modern router is key. You can find things on YouTube and videos on how to configure them. You just put in the router name, configure, and you'll find YouTube videos about all these things. And then configure system locks on everything. So all of us probably have modern cell phones that have a lock on them. Most Apple devices now require you to do face recognition or your thumbprint or whatnot. If you don't have a lock on your phone, think it goes back to just the same thing. I could steal your phone. If it's not locked and there's no lock there, go straight into your email. See, there's the account that they have. All of your stuff is there because it automatically logs into those systems that you use frequently. So again, lock all of your devices. And yeah, it's a little bit of a pain now and then. Most of these devices are now getting to where biometrics is a lot easier. So again, facial recognition or thumbprints, those types of things really kind of help speed things along. But it really is an easy way to secure yourself, especially when you're mobile and out traveling. That's an easy way to lose your devices. And then non-admin account. This goes back to that statement or that story I told of my in-laws coming into town and compromising my system. And so what I knew I should have done before that happened was I set up, so I have an account, my wife has an account, there's a guest account on there, and I've now removed administrative privileges from all of those accounts. It's really easy to do. You just go in there and there's tutorials online on how to do it, and you just change the account from being an administrator to a power user. You can do everything that you're used to doing, but when that pop-up says, hey, you got compromised, click this button, and it's really asking you, what it's really doing behind the scenes is asking you to install this virus, it can't do it because that account doesn't have the privileges to infect your machine. Very easy thing to do, very great ways. I work for a company, again, a Fortune 500 company, where we've implemented this, and I'll give you an example from, this is dating myself, about 15 years ago, and to put into perspective on how widely accepted this is as a tool. 15 years ago, I took away admin rights from an entire consulting firm. And before that, I was rebuilding computers because of viruses and issues and on a daily basis. After doing that, I did not have to rebuild or fix a machine in an entire year, just by taking away admin rights. It's very easy to do and also protects your children from going out to a website or clicking on a link. I know that, I don't want to project here or guess, but I've seen some numbers that suggest it's true, that a lot of times kids will go out and they'll do a search. Oh, I'm interested in this game, right? And I'll go out there and search on how to beat this game or what am I trying to do in this game, and it's going to take you to some message board. That message board has links. Malicious users target those locations to try and trick them into installing something. If you take away the admin rights, then when they come and say, hey, I really want to install this, then you know that, yep, what you're actually doing is trying to install something, and in that moment, you switch over to the admin rights account and you do that. Again, small things that can protect you 90% of the time are really key here. And so the last thing I've got here is to educate yourself. And so I put up some resources here up on the board. So over here on the table, I printed off 5 copies of different topics that I thought might be of interest to you. I see some of you guys grabbed them. I didn't print off a lot because honestly I knew I was going to have it up here. But the third bullet there is the SANS organization, which is a security group, and they have a free newsletter. And so all of these handouts that I printed off are free newsletters that can be used. They can be used by companies as long as you reference where you got them. And there's a lot of topics that are out there, and they've been doing this. I've been collecting these newsletters for, I think, 7 years now. And great topics. So topics on, am I hacked? Where how to identify phone scams. There's a large array of things. You just got to go through the different years. A new one comes out every month. It comes into my email address. I look at it, and I'm interested. A couple of the other ones that I have up in here is the On Guard Online Government. So this is a government website that is there that also does education. So if you want to educate yourself a little bit more on security information, news, whatnot, that information is there. The same thing as the uscert.gov are both great resources that the U.S. government has put out there to help people educate themselves. These last two, so Stay Safe Online is another, it's by the National Security Council, I believe. Either that or it's the National Cybersecurity Council. Again, another great resources for people to learn how to secure themselves at home. And then the last one here, and you may be a bit intimidated by going to this website, but there's 2 great links on that, or locations on that last website, is when you go to the main page, there's a search bar, and you can type in your email address, and it will tell you, has your email address been found in any of these data breaches? And it'll tell you. So I'll tell you, to be honest with you, I went in there, put in my email address, and it came back with 5 systems. Now I already knew that those 5 systems had been breached. One of them was, we were talking earlier, Roll20. Shows up there. It's a service. It's a gaming service that I've been using. It was they had a compromise. I think it was about 9 months ago, and so they send out a notice to all their users. But if you don't see those things, you don't know what's going on. And so again, a great resource. Another thing that's on there is if you go to the little, the menu bar up at usually in the upper left corner, it's like three lines. You click on that, and there's a search of the password database, and you can go in there and you can type in a password to determine is this password in this huge database that they have of known compromised passwords. Because what happens is people get those known compromised passwords, and then when they have a tool that will just sit there and cycle through them. And this way you can know, does the password that I use, is it in that database that is readily available to hackers that they want to use? So I hope I haven't scared you guys too much. Are there any questions? I think I've got like 2 minutes. I think last Christmas was the first time I've gone to a family Christmas gathering and not spent half of my time doing IT work. So, if that puts it into perspective. Yep, and then we'll come over here.
One question, not to be too specific, but periodically I'll get something will show up on the screen. It's time to update your Microsoft software. You have updates available. How do I know
So it depends
if it's
on
real or if it's, should I Google it and see if they're sending out free?
So
free
here,
updates?
this is the thing. I'm gonna probably guess that you're running Windows 7.
Yeah.
Windows 7 is end of life in January. So just be aware that Windows 7 they're gonna stop providing updates in January. So if you haven't, budget out that you're gonna need to move to Windows 10 by January. if you get that, if you go, like you get that pop-up, close it. You can go into your system tray in the system settings
Right.
and go into its Windows Update. And then that, again, it's you're not getting the pop-up that somebody could argue it or fake it. You can going directly to the source on your system and doing it. I would recommend you getting off of Windows 7 and onto Windows 10 if you're a Windows user. Because the nice thing about Windows is that Windows 10 is that it automatically updates. And it doesn't give you the pop-up saying, hey, this is going to do it. It just says, hey, we're updating. And it's the same approach that Apple has taken for their OS. It's the same approach that I think the Chromebooks have taken for their OS that are on those devices. They're done with saying, okay, we're going to let people decide to patch their own stuff. Nope, they're just going to force it. Because honestly, it does a good thing for the software companies in that they know that the systems out there are on the latest version. And so now they have the right security involved. Question?
Are you familiar with NIST 853?
Mm-hmm. I reference it every day.
So you and I will talk again after this.
Yeah, the risk assessment team that I lead, so I lead 4 or 5 people. We have to leverage NIST, COBIT, ISO 27001. Yeah, you name it. There's the new German laws that I'm familiarizing myself with. Yeah, there's. I'm very familiar with that. There was a question.
Malware,
Mm-hmm.
I see that on the computer, and is it easily targeted?
Malware?
Uh-huh.
That malware is the new term for anything that's a virus, right? That's your ransomware. So it used to be that a virus was something that had to be downloaded and installed or whatnot. There's so many different types of what's called malware nowadays. So they cannot infect you, they can infect a website, right, that you go to. Another example I've got is there's a website that I go to that's dmsguild.com. If you go to dmnosguild.com, it's a compromised website. And you get this, honestly, I thought about getting a recording of it and turn it on, is that if you go there, it blares at you saying that your machine is compromised because you've been looking at porn and all sorts of stuff and you need to fix this right away. It's because they've compromised that site. And again, they're trying to scare you. And that's what, all malware is lumped into that. Now, there's different types of malware that are there. Again, phishing, worms, Trojans, a lot of that. It goes back to that first slide where I threw up all those acronyms that I was trying to scare you guys with. Just malware in general.
So it's not good?
Oh, no, it's not good at all.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah. Other questions? Well, if you think of other questions, I want to give the wonderful officer a moment to, or give him his time. But if you have questions, I'll be sticking around. So feel free to come up and ask me any questions. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, guys. How y'all doing? As I said, my name is Detective McClain. I'm with St. Louis County Police. I work primarily in the North County precinct, or I should say I work out of Clayton, but my office is located in North County precinct. So for the most part, I get a lot of cases that a lot of people don't see. Not to say a lot of fraud happens up there, I can tell you that right off the bat, but a lot of different things, a lot of different new things tend to hit up there before they hit other parts of the county, which is, hey, you want to call it odd, we'll just call it odd. But it is what it is. I've been an officer for 13 years. I've been a detective in this bureau doing this stuff for 5 years. And out of those 5 years, I approximately get about 40 cases a month dealing with any type of fraud, including identity theft or check fraud or even felony theft. So pretty busy man, all day, every day. So like I said, I see a lot, so I can hopefully help you guys with what I've seen a lot. So let's get right to it. I want to talk a little bit about, before we get started, talk about mostly Social Security cards. How many people here still carry their Social Security cards in their wallet or purse? All right. How many people still carry their checkbooks in those purses and wallets? I always tell people the easiest way to try to curb that is to keep that stuff locked up. If you're not using it, then there's no need to carry it with you. I mean, because this, and I'll be honest, I'm gonna tell a lot of horror stories about what I've seen. So you will get a lot of stories. So you have to excuse that. That's just the way it's going to be today. But from the standpoint of when we talk about identity theft, when people are taking your information and using it, one of the main things is that Social Security card, Because, hey, you can't open up a credit card without that. You're gonna need that. Usually it's that name. So usually if I steal your wallet, then I got your license, right? Your license has your name, has your date of birth, has your address. So then all I need is that great social. Now sometimes they'll ask for other little small things that people still can find. A lot of people's information right there out there on the dark web. A lot of people don't know. You don't even know if your stuff's out there. That's the worst part about it. And then it only costs $3 to $5. $3 to $5, I can get your information, and then we're right on the game. We go ahead and start opening up some accounts. For you guys, that Social Security card is a big step. It's a big start. Like I said, if I steal your stuff, I got it. And there's only that one time where you turn your head for a minute while you're going to get something off the shelf in Snooks, and then your purse is gone. And you can't figure. Now you got to figure out. The other thing is to know what's in your wallet. By the way, know what the heck you got. That's what we tend to have a lot of problems because we're always on the back end, right? After we try to be proactive and everything, but we're always reactive when it comes to these things. So you guys got to know what's in your wallet. So by all means, make a copy of what you got in your wallet. Put it in your safe. So that way, hey, when it comes time, because we're going to ask you, hey, well, what was the account number or what's the card number? You can be like, I don't know. I have to call the bank in the morning when I figure it out. And that's the type of stuff we run into. So by all means, people, please, like I said, know what you have. So because then you don't know what to cancel either. So and believe it when I tell you, I've had victims call me and be like, hey, I know I had this card, but I don't know about the other ones. I'll let you know if something pops up on there. So literally called me like for a week straight with another card that was in the wallet that was used somewhere, some way, somehow in another place. And that was like an everyday thing for literally a week. Now let's talk about the death of that checkbook, the good old checkbook. Like I said, normally if you're going to use it, I get it. If you're going to use it, you want to have it. The whole thing, people want to use it for security. People want to have it just in case they might have to write a check on something because they can't find that. No need anymore. Because like I said, you probably got 3 or 4 cards in your wallet you can pull out at any time and use. But the checkbook, the reason why the checkbook is so dangerous is because like I've had a case involving a lady who had her purse stolen, right? So she had her checkbook stolen and her wallet. It was right in the purse. So then they wrote checks. So she called the bank. She did the right thing. Called the bank. Says, hey, I need to cancel these checks. Somebody stole them. And they're like, okay, well, we'll write that off. We'll get you a new account. Got her a new account. Only problem is that those checks, even though they're not good anymore, hey, when they went to go take it to Walmart and Walgreens, they look good to them. You know, they still look good, even though it wasn't her using it. So all 15 of those checks were used in all different locations. And then of course, what happens is that since the bank has already canceled it, they already canceled it. So once they canceled it, hey, the money is not there. So then the only people that they know of is the person whose name is on the check. So then Walgreens and all them people start sending letters to her house saying that, hey, you owe us $300. You wrote us a $300 check. You got these items. Hey, we want our money. So she kept getting them and kept getting them and kept getting them from different locations because all they know is that's all they know. That's the only thing that the company knew. So then she had to go and do affidavits for every single one of those people to try to fix her credit in reference to all those different checks. Because those people like Walmart, Walgreens, they go through like telecheck. They go through a third party vendor. And like I said, and then my favorite is if it's bad debt, then they sell it off to somebody else who will just hound the crap out of you. Just call you, mail you. That's what they do until they get their money. And that's how that kind of went. So be careful about those checkbooks. Very dangerous. I know we were talking about more or less elderly things and dealing with the elderly and having issues with, dealing with elderly people and then trying to avoid certain things, avoid your information getting out. The key is to watch who comes in your house. I don't care who you are. You should, even if it's not involving elderly people, you should watch who comes in your house and make sure your stuff is protected. Like I said, because people want to know how a lot of times how people get their information. Sometimes we just give it to them. We give it to them, or sometimes they just take it because it's out there in the open. We don't protect ourselves because we don't know what to put away. Or sometimes we say, hey, it's in my house. Nobody's gonna come in here and take this. Well, hey, when you go to the bathroom or something, somebody else is looking around seeing what you got. Then they will take it. I don't care if it's a contractor who's coming in just install a simple line. He's coming in just supposed to install some cable. He can take what you have. So lock your stuff up. And what I mean, lock your identity stuff up. Hey, your purse, know where your purse is when he's in there. Your wallet. Don't leave it on the counter. And that sometimes we forget because we're at home, right? We're comfortable in our surroundings. But we have to make sure that we protect ourselves. Because that's one of the ways that people get your information is that, like I said, literally, we just leave it out in the open. So hey, it don't take a second but to write something down. Write down the number off your wallet, one of your debit cards, your credit card number. Because all you gotta do is write the number on the front, write the number on the back. They already got your name. Like I said, next you know, they're paying their cousin's electric bill in South Dakota, or paying somebody else's bill here. Like you'll be surprised how many times I get Comcast bills getting paid by unknown sources, because all they know is like they're paying it online using your information, because they somehow obtained it. I've had one trace back. One time I've had a guy where he let this cable guy in, and he left. He said, hey, he had to run to the store. He's like, hey, he tells him, I'm going to be leaving and I'll be back. He's like, okay. So he runs to the store. He comes back, the guy's still working, so hey, everything is cool. Because he figures like, hey, it was a quick trip, right? Didn't matter. I was just going right up there, coming right back. So he leaves, boom. The guy says, hey, I'm finished. He leaves. Next thing you know, he keeps getting all these charges. Charges. He's trying to figure out what the heck happened. And come to find out, that guy had wrote down information, wrote down the numbers on his credit card and was using it. And was using that information. And it was just like that. He was like trying to figure out why and how. And come to find out it was actually the guy's girlfriend, which we ended up linking back to him being in that house. And then he tells, like, and of course you don't remember that because you don't think that's important to the police, right? You're like, I don't know, nobody's been in here. He said, maybe we have one guy in here, but I watched him for the most part. And yeah, I said for the most part. Then we come back and it was like, you know what? I did have to leave and go to the store. I forgot. And that's how you got it. So, like I said, protect yourselves from yourselves sometimes. Now, I'll tell you a good story today that happened. Phone calls. And I know y'all got it. Everybody gets them. Everybody in this room, maybe the kids not so much, hopefully. But everybody gets those phone calls, the robocalls, where they're asking they're like, hey, they're asking for information, asking for your stuff. And sometimes they're even tricky. Sometimes they're trying to say that they're your son, or your son is locked up, and they need your help. And they need to give us 10 gift cards from 10 gift cards from Walmart, or otherwise he's gonna be thrown under the jail, or whatever other story they want to make up to make it sound so bad. The thing about these scams, it's all about rushing. It's all about rushing you, making you panic, right? And then once you get in that panic mode, it's tough to get yourself out. So what I always tell people to do, if you do don't get it twisted, you're gonna be called. It's gonna happen. You're gonna get called. But the key is to think about it. Take time. Don't, like I said, the whole thing is for them to rush you. So what you should do, make sure to take the time out and think about what they're asking or what they're saying. And sometimes I tell people, even if you think it's still real, even if you do think it's real, then ask them for a number. He's like, okay, well listen, I gotta make a couple calls. I have no problem with doing this if that's what it is, but I need to make a couple calls first. What's your number? So I can call you back. And then you get off that phone and then you call a friend or two friends and say, hey, does this sound weird to you? And then by that time your friend will probably be like, yeah, that sounds really odd. I don't know what's up with that. And then you can leave it at that. But don't get twisted. They might call you back and then you be like, listen, I don't think this is right. Or my favorite is like, well, I don't think this is gonna work for me. So yeah, good day to you. Or you can do other things like I said, if they're telling you that your grandson or granddaughter or friend is in trouble, then you call said friend. You get on the phone, you call said friend, or call said friend's parents or mom, because that's the first thing they tell you. Well, don't call mom and dad. Well, always call mom and dad. That's going to be my second on that. Always call them.
I always say they had it coming.
Oh yeah, you're like, I knew it was going to happen eventually. But I always tell them, hey, because like I said, because their whole thing is about panic, rush. Like my favorite, I have one involving a nursing home where they tell them, hey, your electric is about to be cut off because you guys haven't paid the bill in 3 months. And she's like, well, and this is the director. She's like, well, I don't know. She's like, well, the accounting person's not here. You know, they call later when they know the accounting person's not there. And so they're like, I don't know. So she's like, well, what do I need to do? And they tell her to go get these green dot cards and then call them back and give them the numbers. And so so she was so much in a panic. This is exactly what she did. But then she called Ameren the next day. And then Ameren's like, oh, your bill is great. We don't see any problem here. And then she's calling me. They're telling me, hey, this is what happened. What do you think? I said, what can we do? And I'm like, well, hey, we have to try to figure out if we can find out who these people were. I said, obviously, because you already gave them everything. And I said, I don't know if I don't know what we can do to try to get it back, but we try to figure out who it is. I've had scams that have linked back to Russia, that will go from literally where a person thought they were dating someone. They thought they were dating someone, and then they come to find out they were sending money to a person in New York, who was sending money to a person in Florida, who was sending money from Florida to Russia. So I was able to link all that together, and they were so. But like I said, and then to come to find out, the guy she thought she was talking to has been dead for 10 years, you know. And then like I said, and it can happen just that quick. And then like I said, to the point where this lady was putting money in her at certain points was putting money in her mailbox, actually cash in her mailbox, and somebody was coming to pick it up and would take it somewhere else to send it off somewhere else. And it's just like I said, it's sad, but it's fraud, and it happens all the time. And like I said, the best way to protect ourselves is we have to think a little bit more and slow ourselves down, because we're so, like I said, we're so wanting to help. Some people just want to help people, and they will take full advantage of that every time. And like I said, but the key is to be on guard. Be on guard. Like I said, you already know, you know, hey, like I said, you know how old. My favorite is like, hey, I have one where she thought her grandson was in trouble, but her grandson is not even that old. So it's like, she's thinking like, hey, he can't be locked up somewhere. He's only like 11. He's not going to be in a whole other state without his parents. But we move so quick. We don't think. We just like I said, and that's their whole job. That's their game. And I tell people, hey, if you can make $500 in a day, why would you go to a regular work? If you make $500 in a day or $1,000 in one day, and all you got to do is make 4 calls. You know, that's how sad it can be, but we have to protect ourselves. That's the way it all works. I'm going to talk a little bit about skimmers, and those beautiful, even skimmers and shimmers. I don't know if you guys have heard of these before. I imagine everybody's heard of skimmers nowadays. But shimmers is the ones that go inside the machine. They're not like the little small pieces. They go inside ATMs. You can slide it in. They slide it in, it shoots down right in there, and it's stuck. So then all you do is you just go in there, you stick your card in, boop, and then it reads it. And they have a little piece that reads it in there too. And they have Bluetooth devices connected to it. So sometimes they get close. All they gotta do is get close, and they can get your information. You get that whatever information that's on that card, they get in that good old ATM machine. Now, other like people, big banks like Bank of America, you can say U.S. Bank, PNC Bank, they've made a lot of adjustments to try to kind of curb that now. So you don't see that as much anymore with the great shimmers. But for those older banks, some of those credit unions, some of the ones that are smaller, then you see that. You tend to see that, and that's what you. And the worst part about it is really tough to protect yourself on those because you can't see it, you don't know it. And the only thing you really can do is to keep your account. I always tell people, hey, set up alerts on your accounts. You got to set up those alerts. That's what they're there for. Even when we talk about internet safety, just setting up, hey, sometimes they have those 2 factors where they got to call you, they may text you and give you a code, and then you got to put it in just to get on your own site. Hey, I guarantee that works. It works for now anyway, until some guy who's been sitting in his basement for 10 years figures out a way to get around it. Yes, sir.
Are these usually remote ATMs, or are they ones right in front of the bank, right in front of the door?
They could be either or. I've seen more or less. I've seen more in the drive-through because it's easy and quicker, and then people don't pay as much attention. But the ones out in front of there, I haven't had one yet, at least up here. But which is great. But if they're these guys, they're desperate. And like I said, and a lot of them don't come from here. They're not from here. They can't even speak English for the most part, some of them. But hey, they know how to get them cards and get that money. That's all they need to know. I had one guy where they had an ATM and they literally put this is older. They put the little piece. They put a lip on there, and then they put a pinhole camera up on the top, and then they put a metal piece over it. So literally, and this stuff the little piece sticks right on the other, so the piece where you stick your card in is a piece that goes right over the top, looks the same color, looks exactly the same. You wouldn't notice the difference if you were, and then the other part, the pinhole camera, nobody can see. I was like, and when we were looking at it, I couldn't even see it, It was that small, but then when we lifted the flap, because literally what they did was they came in, it was like, it took them approximately 5 minutes. Like I said, or it's like that's actually more like 3 minutes. They push that thing on there, and then they have the camera's already connected to that little metal piece. All I gotta do is just try to connect it real quick to get some juice, and then they just hang it over, out the door, gone, just like that. They hit 2 ATMs at one time, so they had 2 different groups hitting them at the same time. And so and then people were just coming in, whoop, putting their card in, doing their business, putting their PIN. So because a lot of times it's tough to get that PIN number. So the best way they do to get that, that's why they have that pinhole camera to get your PIN number. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot of the gas stations now, they'll have, when you put your card in, they'll ask for your zip, and sometimes they ask for your PIN. But then it has a little hand. If you see, I don't know if you notice it, you can see like they have a little hand on some of them. Where like the picture that's on there when you're putting your PIN in has a little hand that kind of goes like that. Well, that's only because they're trying to guard your PIN number now. That's the whole thing about that. So that way, when you type in your PIN, you should get used to kind of putting your hand up as you put in your PIN number to try to guard it. Because if they have a pinhole camera, then the only thing they can see is your hand. Then that's so like a lot of times that's what they want. That's what they would like for you to do. I know that you guys have probably got these things from the bank where they sent out the little package. Y'all just threw them away. Y'all like, what is this garbage? but that's literally what they. So a lot of times they try to guard those things. So that's what you guys need to get in the habit of doing. And then get in the habit of, like I said, if outside ones you don't see as much. I haven't seen as much anymore. Like last year and the year before, it was the raid. Everybody was doing it. Everybody was throwing it on the top. Now they like to get inside if they can get inside and figure out a way. So then those, like I said, a lot of those you got to pay attention to those, just the look. And like I said, if you've been going to the ATM, if you go to the ATM, I'm not a person that goes to the ATM, by the way. I go inside, get my money now. I don't want to deal with that. Too scared, I guess.
You scared me enough. That's what I might say.
Yeah. I just walk my butt inside, get my money. If I can't get it by 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, then I'll get it tomorrow. So but like I said, but like a lot of times with that, you just got to be careful. And those like I said, the skimmers, like even the gas stations are so, oh my gosh. If you only knew, like all these little different, I didn't even know it was so horrible. It was just so bad. Because like I said, because literally gas stations, same thing. The majority of the time they're inside. So literally somebody will come in, they have a key, like because they just get a universal key off eBay. You can buy 3 of them for $10 on eBay. And then you just go, all you gotta do is pull up, boop, open it up, connect it up to that reader, close it up. There, the game is over. And then you just wait until the money comes, right? Wait for y'all to pull up and just start putting that card on in there. And so a lot of times with gas stations, period, look for the markers. A lot of times they'll have those stickers on the outside of them, just showing knowing that they checked it, right? Because somebody got to come out and check it. Like you see a BP now, some of them will have little barcodes, so they let you know they have a little piece in the barcode with it, and then some of them put the dates on there or the time of when they last checked it. So I was like, hey, look and make sure that seal is not broken. If it looks broken or look like it's been moved or tampered with, I can tell you a really, really good example of where some have been tampered with. And I don't know who deals with it, but it's down in the city, down there from the ballpark, as a matter of fact. Because it's an unmanned gas station. You don't even have a person there whatsoever. I pulled up there. I was working secondary for another business, and I pulled up there to get gas in that for that machine for the car. And so I stopped at the first one, and I got out. I was like, I'm looking at the machine because, like I said, I'm paranoid about that now. So I'm looking at the machine, checking it out, and then I see that the machine looks like it's been like somebody has, and this is what you should look out for too, where screws don't match. So like I got you got like 3 bolts and then a wood screw. I'm like, well, that ain't right. So I was like, well, I'll just pull up to the next one. So I pulled right on up, left that one alone, pulled up to the next one. And then the next one, it's the same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I pull around to the next set of gas pumps. No stickers, no nothing. I'm like, you know what? I just got to go to another one. So I just drove on down, way down Broadway to the next gas station where it was manned. So look out for the unmanned ones. I would not use unmanned gas pumps, period. So like I said, if they don't have people there, or don't, and then some of those smaller ones where you only got that one clerk who works at night and he's probably asleep or watching television while he's in there, I wouldn't fool with that. And like I said, I do not fool with that. You shouldn't fool with it either. Like I said, and some of the best ones when it comes to that, you want to get a pump that's closest to that door, close to where people can look out and see what is going on. So like usually if I'm gonna use a pump, I don't use the out ones, the ones on the outskirts where people can't see. Now unless I'm at Quick Trip, Quick Trip has like, I've been fortunate so far that Quick Trip I haven't had any breaches with Quick Trip here. And then I start, you start thinking about why. Why would that happen? Why Quick Trip of all places? Because they have a lot more people, and they have a lot more people at night, and still walking and cleaning and everything else. Where some of these other people only have one person, maybe, and that makes a difference. Always use the center ones because people, like I said, you can look out. Try to use the center ones, not the outskirt ones. Check the machine. Look at it. If some screws look like they're messed up, then hey, I wouldn't fool with that. If that barcode or sticker look like it's been moved or tampered with, wouldn't fool with that either. Like I said, and I tell you what, I'm probably that guy that you've been sitting behind like, dude, what is that dude doing? Pump the gas. I'm that guy. I'm checking it out. I'm like, hey, trying to see if I'm trying to jiggle. I'm jiggling the pieces. I'm looking at the code. But after you do it for a while, it doesn't really take that much time. And with us, with America right now, we're always in a rush. Everything's about getting things done faster, quicker. Like sometimes, like I said, you just gotta take your time and take a quick look. And like I said, don't be afraid. Like I said, the machines will not break. You're not gonna break anything on that machine. And if you do, somebody else will pay for it. Okay, you don't got to worry about that. They won't be looking for you. I won't name the credit union, but a guy encountered a skimmer. He didn't even know it. So literally, what it was, he goes in, he sticks his card in, and he pulls it out real fast. Because they tell you, stick it in, pull it out. So he sticks it in, pulls it out, and then the piece that was on the outside falls out. You know what I'm saying? The sticker piece falls, and so he's like, ooh. And then he said, hey, he just picks it up, and then he drives over to the bank and says, hey, I think your machine is broken. And then they tell him, hey, no, that's a skimming device. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, did they get my information? And they were like, well, sir, we can't tell, and that is the truth. They can't tell what's on there. We can tell what's on there after we have to do some digital forensic, get them on it to look and see what's on the card. And that's the only way we're able to tell whether or not they got your information. And sometimes, like I said, there is no card to be had because a lot of that stuff is already by Bluetooth. If the guy was close, all he has to do is just try to download that information or just get it.
So is this problem more prevalent in North County than maybe other areas, or is it more so in the city?
That's a good question.
Is it just?
It's widespread. And like I said, and we've had people, because like literally, sometimes we'll have people that come in town and when you kind of know that it may be happening, but you don't know where they're going to strike. You know what I mean? So, and then we've had a lot. I've had a lot, and we've had a lot in the mid county, which would be like Creve Coeur and stuff like that. But like I said, it's always the smaller ones, and they always hit those small ones because those keys. We talked about those universal keys that you can buy on eBay. Some of those smaller gas stations, right, are the ones that have that those keys work on. And other keys, they don't work. Yes, sir.
Luggage locks. The TSA has a master key, and you can easily buy these anywhere online. So you can unlock luggage. People just go around and unlock that.
Amazing what's on eBay.
Oh my gosh. Hey man, you can buy your whole life on there, I'm telling you. See, you can make a whole nother retirement business.
So this skimmer, if we've had a problem with our credit card number being used, but we still have the card, it's never left our possession.
Oh, yeah.
Is that how they're getting the information, maybe?
One of many ways. And I tell people this, and I'll be honest, a lot of the stuff that I have, a lot of stuff that I've learned have come from victims doing different things too, trying to figure out ways to stop themselves. Sometimes, I'll tell you, most definitely, I'll tell you this right now, it's easier to use a credit card than it is to use a debit card, especially when it comes to getting your money back. Because like I said, the banks they're gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, was it you? Was it not you? What was it? They were like, hey, and then the worst part about it, your money's gone, and now you were out. Now you got to pay your bills. Now how you trying to figure out how to pay those bills? So I always tell people, hey, don't be afraid to use a credit card, and use a credit card separately for certain things, because then you will know, hey, how it got compromised to an extent, maybe. Because like I said, if you use one online only, and I say, hey, I just use this one online only, or I use this one if I do my daily stuff. I always tell people it's easier to get that money back that way. Because like I said, banks don't want to give up money. That's their job. Their job is to hold on to that. They want to hold on to that money, and they don't want to just give it to you. Because people lie. Yes, and they do lie bad. They lie. So that's why I've had a whole bunch of those too, by the way. A whole bunch of people that, oh, my stuff got compromised, I don't know what to do. And then next thing you know, I'm like, hey, why is this all you? I call these people, they say it's you. Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. I was going to tell you. I was going to call you today and tell you about that. Oh, getting close to time. All right, I'm going to tell you one quick thing. Hey, freezing your credit is one of the best ways, okay? Freezing, what I mean by freeze, a credit freeze, you can either call or go online to each of the credit bureaus. And it costs you $5 per bureau, and you can freeze your credits, meaning that nobody else can open no credit cards, they can't open up anything in your name, using your name. Now, that does not stop them from using your information for tax purposes, okay? So don't think you just scot-free when you froze your credit. They can still try to use your stuff on far as taxes goes. That means get to it. And then a lot of times, I've had a lot of this lately, which is basically where people open up accounts. A lot of people that are older don't like using the computer. They don't like getting on. They don't like getting online. They don't like using bank stuff online because they think they're going to be compromised. But like I said, but then people will open up accounts using your information. So once they got your information and they open up that thing, now you can't do nothing because you can't even get on it. And then next you know, they're sending checks to people all over the place, people that you don't know. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, how did you get your banking information? No, it must be you. Like, no, it's not me. I always tell people, even if you don't use it, you should open up your own online stuff. So I bank at PNC Bank. You should make sure that you get a username and password for those different things. Social Security is another one. Make sure you get a username and password. I don't care how old you are, because guess what? They can change your address if they got your information and they open it up. If your check has been coming in the mail for 10 years and now all of a sudden it's not coming in the mail, hey, they're guaranteed that somebody opened up an account and has decided to change that address to a different address. And now you're without that money, and now you're like, hey, go into panic mode because, hey, you're used to that money coming in and now you don't have it. So make sure to, like I said, if you have accounts, if you have bank accounts that don't have online stuff yet, or that you have not set up online bill pay, online pieces, make sure you do that. At least beat them to the punch. Make sure you have yours set up. I know I went a little long, so sorry, long-winded. Questions, anything. I'll stick around. I know we're past our time, so sorry.
Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. That's all, folks.